Yo, what's going on, YouTube? Top of the morning to you people. Currently, I am rolling through Texas en route to California with the load I mentioned in my last video. Speaking of which, I'm on somewhat of a roll right now. This is my third video within about a 4 or 5 day span. So, try to make up for some of that lost idle time over the past couple weeks and months. Wendys, I don't want to curse because, you know, I don't monetize the channel. I'm trying to get the money. So Wendy is a mug out here right now. We 15,000 pounds. It's been blowing pretty hard. I mean, when my trainee, as his shift ended, you know, it had him a little nervous. I told him to go ahead and pull on over, man, and you know, I'll take over once I get another hour or two of sleep. With us being 15,000 pounds and light, it's pushing us around a little bit, but it's not like being out in Wyoming or in that area where that wind gust gets up to 60 plus miles an hour. It's about 25 miles an hour right now, so just gotta take the punches and keep moving forward. But so to segue into what I want to talk to y'all about, man, you know, beware of the advice you get from people, and in particular, man, some of these seasoned, I don't want to say older, some of these seasoned yet better drivers. So as I was getting the trailer washed out yesterday, I was inside. There was a driver who was getting his truck washed. Beautiful truck, 2004 pearl blue Kenworth W900. Beautiful truck, man. So I got to talking to him about it, and you know, conversation rolled on. Told him that, you know, I'm planning on buying my truck next year, and obviously becoming an owner operator and moving forward from there. And he immediately was like, "Oh man, I wouldn't do that if I was you, man. I wouldn't advise anybody to buy a truck." You know, and he has been driving for 35 years. I wouldn't advise anybody to buy a truck, man. Matter of fact, I'm ready to get up out of here, and I'm gonna sell my truck, and you know, I can't wait. And I'm just looking at him like, good grief. You know, he was leased on the Landstar, pulling step deck, owns his truck and his trailer. And, as of right now, in the wintertime, he said for the last 8 years he's been pulling UPS because step deck freight slows down, and normally around this time of the year, UPS freight picks up. He did say it's taking a little hit this year, and we spoke, and I said, man, you know, it's got to have something to do with Amazon. But getting back on the subject, I wouldn't advise anybody to buy a truck. I wouldn't do it. It's not like it was back when I started driving. You know, the first 2/3 of his career was, you know, pre-e-logs. You know, and the e-logs do present their issues and their challenges. In particular, that 14-hour rule, which any truck driver with any type of experience will tell you, that 14-hour rule needs to be amended or completely eradicated and revamped, because it just doesn't make sense that you can sit still at a shipper or receiver for 4, 5, and 6 hours and lose all that time. So we're talking, he's like, man, I wouldn't do it, you shouldn't do it, or whatever. And I'm just like, wow, man, this dude is real bitter. Like, and you've been driving for 35 years, and you was driving in the quote-unquote heyday of trucking, running wide open, you know, paper logs and all the type of mess they was into back in the 70s. You know, there was some real outlaw drivers back then. You should have made all kinds of money back then, bro. Like, you should be set right now. So what I'm taking from this is you didn't, at least for most of that time, you didn't think about the future with your money. And with that said, times change, and some people just have the hardest time, or just flat out refuse to adjust and adapt to the current climate, you know, and to the current conditions. Nothing stays the same forever. Here we are 30 years later, and yes, of course, that e-log thing is a problem to a degree, 14-hour rule in particular, but I mean, they're just talking about the whole industry has changed. There's a lot more rules and regulations. if we gonna keep it 100, man, that's y'all fault. That's his generation's fault. They was the ones out here running coast to coast, taking, you know, lines of coke, booger sugar all over the place, and driving for, you know, 24 hours straight, making coast to coast runs. One driver, you know, solo driver in 2 or 3 days, basically driving damn near non-stop, crashing, killing people. That was y'all out here being these rogue drivers, manipulating the paper logs, running 2 logs. That was y'all. So the reason that the regulations and the rules are a lot stricter is because of the things that y'all did, your generation did. These drivers with 20, 30 plus years underneath their belt. The reason that things are the way they are today, as far as the rules and regulations go, is because of all the outlaw shit that y'all was doing back then. So, you know, you want to sit there and complain about things being the way they are today, you gotta look in that mirror. I'm not saying that he was definitely one of those drivers, but we all know how it was. You do your research on it. There was some wild boys out there back then, man. So to get to my next point, he's been driving for 35 plus years. Bro, I'm 30 years old. You feel me? I don't know what it was like back then. All I know is what it's like today. And the industry the way it is today, the rules and regulations, aside from the 14-hour rule, like I said how I feel about that, and e-logs, some of the stipulations with e-logs to a degree, but more so the 14-hour rule. But this is all we know. The up and coming generation, the new generation of truck drivers, this is what we know. So we're making our money, we're stacking our coins within the prism that has been built. So telling me it's not worth it and you wouldn't advise anybody to do it, but yet I'm doing just fine. Everything that I want to do so far, the things I want to accomplish, the goals I've set for myself, I'm right on track to hit them. So telling me it's not worth it, it's like, it's not worth it to you. And to sit here and discourage other people because it's not worth it to you anymore because you can't be an outlaw rogue driver anymore, then go ahead and park your truck, sell it, and retire it. Simple as that. But sitting here, you know, and I'm not saying that he just, you know, he forced his opinion down my throat. We started conversing really about his truck, because like I said, it was a beautiful truck, and the conversation rolled into that. But he kept harping on it. I wouldn't do it. You shouldn't do it. So I was like, well, damn. I said, so should I just stay with Prime? In your opinion, I should just stay with Prime then. He was like, no, I'm not saying you should do that either. So I'm looking at him like, okay, so what should I do then? You're saying don't buy a truck, but don't keep working for Prime or another mega carrier. So unless you're insinuating going to work for a smaller mom and pop company, basically what you're saying is just don't be in the truck industry at all anymore, which raises the eyebrow for me, you know, because we are, you know, we're polar opposites. We come from the complete opposite backgrounds. We don't look alike, if you get my drift. So I was almost like, dude, what are you saying? Now I didn't get that negative vibe from him at all, but there are people that feel that way. There are a lot of these quote-unquote seasoned drivers that don't like the demographic change, and I'm not just pulling this out my ass. I got the CB radio, I hear these dudes talking. You walk past them at a truck stop, you hear some of them talking. They don't like the fact that the demographic shift in there's a lot more female drivers, there's a lot more ethnic drivers. That bothers some of these older guys. So to them, I say once again, park your truck and get the fuck out, bro. Like, you're not gonna stop the progression. You can't stop the future. Time's gonna keep moving. You either adapt and adjust, or you become obsolete and get left behind. Point blank, period. So just I talk to anybody, you know. You can learn something from anybody. A guy that's been driving for a year or two, a guy that's been a person that's been driving for 30, 40 years, positive or negative, you can learn something. So, you know, I'll talk to anybody if they're willing to talk and, you know, give advice or you know, share their opinions with me. But what I've learned over my 2 years out here on the road is And before I say this, let me preface it with I've talked to a lot of seasoned drivers that were really, big on the truck industry and pushed me and encouraged me to go ahead and yeah, man, you're on the right path, young man. Get your, get your money right, get you a truck, and go into business for yourself. I mean, some of my coworkers when I was local with Canada Dry that used to be OTR, used to own their own trucks, strongly encouraged me to get up out of Canada Dry and go buy my own truck and start my own company and work for myself. So, it's a lot of seasoned drivers, veteran drivers that are going to point you in the right direction and give you the correct advice and the motivation and encouragement to make that move forward. But you got the bitter ones, and to the bitter ones, or dealing with the bitter ones, I say, man, take what they talking about with a grain of salt, because they're just bitter. They're just bitter, and they don't want to see anybody else happy. Misery loves company. They feel like the truck industry done went to shit, so they don't want nobody else to get into the truck industry. Not taking into account that this is all we know as younger drivers. When y'all was out here being the rogue drivers that y'all were, most of us wasn't even born yet. So I can't relate to how it was back in the 70s and 80s, and 60s. I can't relate to that. All I know is how it is today, and how it is today is working for me. I'm making it work. I'm making good money. I mean, I'm not gonna say I have no complaints, but it's not bothering me to the point where I'm just like, oh, I'm gonna turn these keys and never get in the truck again. I'm doing good. Shit, I'm doing great. The plan I set up, the plan I devised for myself is going accordingly. So to conclude, man, just take what some of these bitter old drivers say with a grain of salt, man. Let them blow off some steam or whatever and keep it pushing, man. But that said, I'm gonna keep on trucking on through Texas. Get ready to stop in about 40 miles. Need to get some fuel for the truck and myself and get back to it. And y'all already know what it is, man. Should do JMV. Till next time, y'all be easy.